to call the committee meeting to order. Bob, would you lead us in a pledge to the flag, please?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by sending a copy of the notice along with the agenda of this meeting to the Atlantic City Press, Atlantic County Record, Record Journal, and current newspapers stating this meeting would take place at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, November the 14th, 2016, at the municipal building, Mays Landing, New Jersey. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mr. Laws?
Here.
Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Mayor Silva?
Here. Can we take a moment of silence for private reflection? And please keep in your thoughts and prayers the passing of Bill Will's brother. Next item on the agenda is the addition, deletion of late agenda items to be considered tonight. There are none. Early public comment on agenda items? None? Good. Before we get into the meeting, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of several members of Troop 126 tonight. Would you please stand up? They're all here tonight to witness they're working on a merit badge, and I think it's great that they come in and gather information. Now, we have a public comment section, too, at the end of the meeting. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them at that time, okay? Thank you and welcome. Okay, the first item on the agenda is discussions. Formal action may be taken. A, the Cologne Fire Department request for matching grant funds for turnout gear. Michael, that was a budget item, correct?
We budgeted money for matching funds. We're going to have to use a different account, though.
Okay.
But we do have the money. It's been transferred.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to grant the request.
Second.
A motion is second. Are there any questions or comments on that? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Thank you. B, proposed ordinance amending Article 2 of the Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for annual salary increases for certain employees. It will be ordinance 1836-2016, with a public hearing to be held on December the 5th, 2016, if introduced. Michael?
Yes, Mayor, this ordinance calls for a 2% increase in January 1st, 2017 and January 1st, 2018 for non-union employees. As you're aware, our union employees' raises are set in their collective bargaining agreements, but they're also 2%.
Okay. Pleasure.
Move
I'll move
3B.
What is it?
I'll move item 3B.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Thank you. C, proposed ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1 of Article 2 of the Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for a maximum number of employees, establishing a salary maximums for certain employees. Will be ordinance number 1837, 2016, with a public hearing to be held on December the 5th, if introduced. Michael?
Yes, the primary reason for this ordinance is there are a number of salaries that are already at the maximum. You can't give them the 2% increase unless you raise the maximum set by ordinance. So this isn't giving a raise, this is moving the salaries up so they can get the 2% raise.
Okay.
This ordinance also paves the way to eliminate our electrical inspector and subcode official from the fire official. And we're going to let the new electrical inspector take over the subcode official work. So he'll get 5,000. The fire subcode's losing 10.
I got you.
But he's going to get 5,000 for property maintenance official. It's basically a zero switch.
Okay.
But we're just moving the duties around.
Good.
I'll make a motion to move ordinance 1837-2016.
Second.
A motion is second. Are there any other questions or comments? Rita, please.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Thank you. Item number 4, public hearing, the adoption of ordinances. A, ordinance 1832-2016, an ordinance authorizing the sale of Lot 15 in Block 606 and granting the owners of said real property contiguous to same the right of prior refusal. This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on it?
Move to
Repeat.
close public portion.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
A motion to adopt the ordinance.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. B, ordinance number 1833, 2016, an ordinance amending ordinances 1758, 2013, 1792, 2015, 1811, 2016, 1820, 2016, and 1821, 2016. That's a lot of ordinances, and it's to do what, Mike?
It's correcting a typo.
It's a typo error, so all of those have to be corrected. Thank you. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve item 4B.
Second.
The motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes, thank you.
Carry.
C, ordinance 1834, 2016, an ordinance to abolish the municipal court of the Township of Hamilton and create and replace it with the Township of Hamilton Regional Municipal Court. Michael, did you want to?
I am recusing myself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to speak?
Move to close public portion.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Before we vote on it, Michael, would you just explain that so everyone has an understanding of what we're doing here?
Yes, we were approached by Buena Vista Township to take over their court system. We put together a shared services agreement. We came to terms. This ordinance outlines the terms. Later on under consent agenda, there's a resolution that adopts the shared services agreement. They'll pay the township. We'll keep all the court costs. There won't be much fine money because they have state police, and state police keep the fine money. But in addition to collecting all the court costs, they'll pay us $100,000 a year, $25,000 a quarter to take over the services. And later on in the agenda, you'll see where we're adding 2 employees to the court to help with the workload from this and our existing workload.
Okay, thank you. What's your pleasure?
A move to,
Motion.
go ahead.
Motion to approve ordinance 1834-2016.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Just for your information in the audience, those of you that are interested in this, all the court proceedings that they would have in Buena Vista Township will now come here, okay? And that should begin after the first of the year. And by doing that, they pay us so much and we take all the fees also, okay? Now, you say, well, how does that work? Well, it's going to increase our back room a little bit, but with the fees we collect, it'll cover that, plus there'll be a bit of a cushion in there, okay? It's part of what we call a shared service agreement. We do certain things in this township. Some things we privatize, which means we put it out for public bid, and it becomes a private, for example, the garage over in our Public Works is handled by a private outfit. They do all the repairs and the maintenance on the vehicles. This is considered a shared service, and we do a few of these. We do it with the county on the fuel depot, and we do it with the dispatch center. We dispatch also, in addition, for this township, for Egg Harbor City. So those are just some of the things we get involved in. That's how you share among communities, okay? All right. Item number 5, introduction of ordinances. Public hearing to be held December the 5th, 2016. A, ordinance 1835, 2016. Proposed ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of the Chapter 66 of the Code of Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees. It says increasing the total number of employees because of, Michael?
Yes, we're hiring 3 additional police officers, which are being funded about 40% with a grant and the other 60% with our township funds. It also increases 2 additional violation clerks in the municipal court, which is being funded through the shared service. And it deletes 1 part-time clerk position in violations bureau. So it's basically a 1.5 employee increase in the court.
Thank you.
Motion to introduce ordinance 1835, 2016.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita, let's get a voice roll call on that.
Sure. Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Just another explanation. We don't arbitrarily hire people here in the township. We are by ordinance held to this, a number of employees. We went through that a number of years ago when we did strategic planning. What we're doing now is a result of this grant we just got for the police department. Before we could not only accept the grant but hire people, we had to increase the ordinance so the number of employees will match the number that we'll be taking in. Okay? All right. It's the consent agenda. Before we vote on it, I want to pull out G, J, and P, because I'm going to want a separate vote on those. Okay.
GJ, and what was the other one?
And P.
T.
What's your pleasure?
Make a motion
J and P.
to vote on all the consent agenda except for G, J, and P.
P. Do I have a-
Second.
I have a motion is second. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. G, Chapter 159, resolution to insert item of revenue with offsetting appropriations for cops hiring grant in the amount of $375,000. Rita, let's have a voice call on that.
We have a motion?
A motion?
Motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second.
Second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and
Thank
carried.
you. J, resolution authorizing the township to enter into a shared service agreement with Buena Vista Township for a joint municipal court.
So moved.
Once again, I'm grouping myself.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second. Can we have voice roll call, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. You saw our solicitor get up and he excused himself from that while we were talking about it, because there's a relationship, was it one of your attorneys, Bob?
My associate is the current
Solicitor,
prosecutor
prosecutor in Buena Vista,
in
right?
this township. And
Okay.
For that reason, I cannot be part of the discussions.
And we, just for the record, we did use Randy Lafferty to help us with the legal work on this. I didn't do it on my own.
Okay, good. That's fine. 7, personnel, appointment to fill the
1 second.
P.
P.
P. Oh, P, thank you. P, resolution, the 2016 budget transfers as recommended by the chief financial officer.
So moved.
Motion and a sec, do we have a second? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Okay, personnel, appointment to fill the unexpired 3-year term on the Veterans Advisory Board vacancy of Jim Childs ending December 31st, 2016.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Roman Robertus.
I have a motion. I'll second it. Any questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 abstention, motion carries.
Thank you. B, accept the resignation of the municipal court judge, Robert Switzer, effective December 31st, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Michael, could we please send him a letter, and let's have everybody on committee sign it, I think his service to this community is without equal. He has served for a number of years here. This is certainly, it's an extremely busy court. I know once we make a recommendation of someone to fill it, which will be another matter, they're going to have their hands filled like he always has, okay? So please, I want to acknowledge that. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
C, accept the resignation of Joseph Lennar of the Zoning Board of Adjustment alternate two-year term ending December 31st, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. D, resolution appointing Bonnie Cherry as Deputy CFO at $70,000 annually with an increase of $5,000 upon obtaining her Certified Municipal Finance Officer certification within 18 months of the start date to be determined.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Resolution appointing Rita Henry as Technical Assistant 1 at $33,972 annually, effective date December 5th, 2016.
So moved.
Have a motion? A second? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. F, resolution appointing Kathleen Rivers Rambone as Deputy Tax Collector at an annual salary of $55,000, effective date to be determined.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. G, resolution reassigning Luann McCardle as temporary full-time clerk assigned to Public Works at $14.63 per hour, effective November the 15th, 2016. Appointment not to exceed 11 months.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. H, authorized to advertise for a full-time clerk in a tax collector's office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Approvals, minutes of October 17, 2016, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. B, payroll and bills. Bill is totaling $6,538,382.50.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Reports, Mr. Administrator,
Nothing to add to my written report.
Mr. Solicitor.
What I have to report has nothing to do with my position here or what's going on, but it has everything to do with the Boy Scouts of America. Last Saturday, I had the pleasure of being a guest speaker at the dedication at the old Cold Springs Cemetery in Irma, Lower Township, by an Eagle Scout by the name of Cameron Compere. And what this young man did was remarkable. He designed, collected the money, and had constructed one of the most beautiful veterans dedicated areas I've ever seen. And I would encourage all of you that are here as members of the Boy Scouts to take a ride. It was unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It's an area where they have 6 50-foot flagpoles for each of the 6 branches of the military. I didn't realize the Merchant Marines were a branch until I got there. And then a 75-foot flagpole in the middle with a plaque in this beautiful area that a 13-year-old kid did. A 13-year-old guy, just like you guys. That was his Eagle Scout presentation and his project. And I was so proud to be one of the speakers, to be involved with it. And I just wanted to tell you all that, so if you ever get there, you can see what you guys can do as you continue on in the Scouts. And I know that has nothing to do with my position as solicitor, but I felt compelled to say it nonetheless.
Well, I think it's appropriate since we just recently celebrated Veterans Day.
Yeah.
And I think it all fits in, and I know each and every one of them is looking and thinking about potential projects, so you might have just put something out on the floor that may have some merit. Okay?
I hope.
Thank you. Mr. Engineer.
Mayor, I have a report today, dated November 14th, and I wanted to start by talking about Buffalo Pike Associates. As we know, it's been quite an inconvenience for a lot of months, but we're nearing the end of the DOT construction. 2 weeks ago, the stop sign was removed where the Route 40 and 322 merge it. The stop sign was removed, the barrels in front of Joe's Farm Market removed, and the owner of Joe's Farm Market seems quite happy. The next thing you're going to see on November 25th, that's the Friday after Thanksgiving, that stop sign's going to be removed by the jug handle on Wrangleboro Road where the jug handle, there's a stop sign there now, and it's causing a lot of inconvenience for drivers near accidents. But that stop sign's going to be removed so that you'll be able to make that, like you used to make that road right back on Route 25th. The last part of this that I'm involved with is the connector road between the jug handle and Volunteer Way. The curbing is installed, the DGA was completed today. As soon as we have good weather, they're hoping to pave tomorrow. I don't think I'm gonna let them pave tomorrow, because the rain we're having today, but they're gonna, the intent is to put the stat base down and in a couple of weeks open up that connector road. So it's been quite an inconvenience, but Buffalo Pike, we are seeing some progress.
Well, and we did have publicity in the paper today, if you saw the article, right? Okay.
Some of the other items, Holy Cross Cemetery, they completed their stat base back in the cemetery for the new mausoleums. Woods Landing, I made recommendation of free certificate of occupancies on Ernst Court. Artist Walk, the Papa Road development, off of West Jersey Avenue. They've begun some real work on phase 3, curving and stabilized base on about 1,000 foot of roadway section. I did a number of inspections, Capital Telecom and tested bottling, the recommended use, maintenance guarantees on these projects. I issued 7 road opening permits for the gas company. They just keep coming at me with road opening permits. We're looking at them close, we're inspecting them close. We're accepting probably only about a third of the ones that they tell us are complete. So we get photographs, we send a letter to them, so we're just gonna stay with South Jersey Gas until they get them to the satisfied.
Have they been coming back on some of those? They've been responsive, according from your list?
They have. It seems like the more pressure I put on them, the more responsive they are.
Yeah, I would stay on it because they have a way of just sloughing things off,
Yes.
so.
The street hockey courts and 13th Street, St. Paul, I was involved with Brett Knoll a couple of weeks ago on those street hockey. Brett and his club worked very hard on making the necessary, we'll call temporary repairs to the street hockey courts. And I'll have some suggestions later on, if given the opportunity, on how to make some permanent, permanent, long-lasting improvements to the hockey courts.
Yeah, I've been approached many times about the hockey courts, that needs to be something done with them, and since hockey season's starting.
I brought a contractor who's worked on many hockey courts and repairs.
Okay.
Brett and I about 2
Good.
weeks ago. And I also brought a representative from a company called Seeker, it's a type of a sealant. And I brought somebody there, and they looked at it, and that's just a temporary fix.
Right.
We didn't use the product, we were gonna supply some samples to us, but I think Brett had to keep everybody, playing hockey, and he did his best to get
Okay.
it temporarily done.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah, I think that ceiling is good for the top, but underneath, we've got to make sure that whatever we do going forward, because I think it's wet underneath those courts.
The soils have a lot of clay in the wet, or even in the parking lot.
Yep.
There's a lot of movement.
Excuse me, I was in Egg Harbor Township, and I noticed that they had what looked like a layer. I don't know if it's vinyl or whatever, but it was almost like mesh, so moisture and stuff could go through it, but it wouldn't, puddle. Is that something that we,
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
The problem we're having is underneath is just a moving
Oh, I see. Okay.
There'll be a couple of choices in that.
Good.
Adam Branch, I did inspections on phase 1 and phase 4 punch list, which is in it, and the list project I want to report on is AutoZone. They're under construction for about the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. They're moving very, very quickly. They're hoping to be complete with site work the second week of December. So they have a pretty aggressive schedule out there on AutoZone.
Is that roadway going to be moved over at all, John, based on what the planning board's decision was?
Yeah, I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know the details of the whole thing.
Okay. Because in time, with what's going to happen across the road, that intersection is going to have to be redone. And with the speed at which the state moves, it could take 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Okay.
That concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Committee, John, Bobby.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've had the pleasure this campaign season to be part of this really odd election season. It was pretty interesting. I learned 2 things. A, that this country is very divided. B, how you deal with it is the most important thing in the world. We're here in this country together, but more importantly, C, we're here in Hamilton Township together. We need to play nice. We need to work with each other no matter who's in, a Republican or a Democrat. Should not matter. What should happen is we as adults should be better leaders for our children. My kid goes to school, and he's told by another kid that all blacks and all Mexicans and Spanish people are going to have to leave America now that Donald Trump's in office. As a Republican, you can see how that can offend the father of a kid that was just told that. That's because of us. It's not because of our kids. It's because of what we do as adults. When my son has to sit there in the house and look at a piece of mail with the words "busted" written across his father's face, and a set of hands with handcuffs on the back of that flyer, that does something to a child. My goal is to make this a better township. If we make this a better township, maybe we can make a better United States of America. Let's all be cognizant of everything that we say and everything that we do, because it definitely affects our children. Hence, birthing more hatred in this country, something we don't need. This is a great country, and I believe it's going to get greater. But it's only going to happen if we build our children and protect our children from our idiocracy. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby. Rodney?
Well, I'd certainly like to second Bobby's comments. This has been one heck of a campaign. I don't know the likes of which we'll ever see anything like this again. I attended the Veterans Day ceremony, which once again went very well. The Veterans Advisory Board did a good job of arranging and planning for it. We had a good attendance and good participation by the township. And the weather completely cooperated. We also had the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee had a health fair, which they held out at the Inland Community Center. And that went very well. Unfortunately, it competed with a funeral of apparently 1 or 2 funerals, I'm not sure, but apparently a very well-known person in the Mitzvah area, so much of the local people weren't there, but nevertheless, we did have a good crowd there, and we had some excellent presentations, including a presentation by our Veterans Advisory Board person. So it went very well. Hopefully we'll have more like that in the future. I also attended the South Jersey Transportation Planning Office Technical Analysis Committee meeting, and it was very interesting. One of the things that was talked about was the passage of the bill that allows us now to spend transportation fund money. The amount of that budget went up from $1.6 billion to $2 billion. So instead of getting Yeah, so it's a fairly substantial increase. But I was surprised to find out that notwithstanding the increase in the gas tax, they've also increased the bond, the transportation bond, up to $12 billion. Now, you would think that wouldn't be necessary, but that's what's happened. And just so people are aware of it, Harding Highway over here, I know anybody that's traveled on there, it's probably one of the worst roads in the county. That was a casualty of the governor's halt of the transportation funding. So that's going to be held up. That probably will end up being held up for almost a year, but it is on the list, and it's going to get started.
Is it going to be held up for a year when they already, prior to him stopping it, when he issued Executive Order 210, they already started to mobilize?
Yes, but they weren't allowed to make orders. Apparently, the governor prohibited that. And, well, let's put it this way, the county person said it was a year delay, but it will start probably in spring. They can't start it now because of weather. It's too late to do it now. To order and then get it done, it's too late to do it now. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame. One of the other things mentioned, yes, I'm looking for things that can benefit us. There were a couple of things that I thought were interesting, one of which was a road preservation program, which apparently can extend the lifetime of roads by 5 years. I don't know how relevant it is to us and whether we can use it, but I'm going to try to get some more information on it. I'll certainly let our guys know about it. Also, the Green Team and members of the community were interested in a bike path. I did talk with the county about that. They're going to dig up some of the plans they had before, and we're going to see what steps can be taken and whether the feasibility of moving on with that. That's all I have. Thank you.
You did mention the senior health fair. It's also notable to mention that the entire committee was there to support it. And I think that shows how much support we put behind a lot of our advisory boards in order to keep them incentivized. Art?
Thanks, Roger. I just wanted to reiterate a little bit of what Rodney said about the Veterans Day event that we had on Friday. It was very well done. Dominic Francesco's here tonight, did a great job as MC. You might think about doing that professionally, just throwing that out there.
It's not a microphone, he just blew another microphone.
They honored Robert Lerner and William Schmitz, who are both very, if you listen to their bios, it was very impressive, both of them, what they've done for this country, the sacrifices that they've made, their families have made. So coincidentally, they were both in the Air Force. Is that how you do it? Every year you go to a different branch, or that's just... Yeah, look at the draw. I got you. So one of the other things I wanted to mention, that their guest speaker was a Major Robert Hahn, and he made a comment that in his hometown that they had about 6 people show up to the same type of event that we put on, or you put on, where, I don't know, what do you think, about 75 people, 100 people were there? Easy.
Oh, we had 200 seats, I believe, out there. Is that right?
So it was,
We had-
Check with Reverend Ash, the number will
Yeah,
go
well-
up.
The number was higher than that, yeah.
well, the point is it's above 6, Rodney. That was the point.
60?
Yeah. So it was a substantial showing. It's something that the Veterans Advisory Board should be very proud of and what you've done, and also the citizens of this town for showing up and understanding what Veterans Day is about. Because these are the same people, you know, you enjoy your freedom every day, and they're there to guarantee you that you're going to have it the next morning when you wake up. So it's important that we take a few minutes out of our year to make sure that they know that we appreciate it. That's all I got, Roger.
Thank you. John?
I'd like to echo Art's remarks for Dominic. What a great job. That was really a good service. Also, I see we have the president of the Merchants Association here in the audience, so I would just like to say we had a great fall festival that the merchants put on, and we're following that up with a Dickens of a Holiday on December 3rd. That's going to be another great event. There'll be train rides for the kids, storybook telling. It's quite interesting. A snowball toss where the money is donated to the local food pantries. So it's something else, again, that the Merchants is putting on to showcase our township and bring more people to our area, and it's really been going very well. I wanted to also thank Steve again for the Benderson project and keeping his eye on what was happening out there at that roadway. We're glad to hear that Cincotti's able to operate their farm market without any additional problems. That stop sign, like he said, has been removed. We're looking forward to see things happening there. Also, just so the public knows, there's so much happening that we should be excited about in our township as far as new business. The AutoZone, which is opening out on McKee Avenue, Lidl, which is a German supermarket, that'll be opening across from that on the Black Horse Pike. The architecture on that building is amazing. It's all glass. It's not like the normal supermarket you used to looking at. It's quite the drawings are quite interesting, and their business plan is really great. We're talking about a German butcher. We're talking about a on-site bakery. It's an exciting project, and to think that there's 25 of them proposed across the country, and they selected Mays Landing for their first location, I think that says a lot. Also, Domino's right on the corner is moving ahead very quickly now. They have all the necessary approvals, and they're expecting to have an opening. They haven't announced it yet, but we certainly want to support them as a community. There's a lot of things happening on Main Street that have happened, and we're adding to it all the time. So we're looking forward to Domino's. And then Rodney touched the base on the senior citizen event, the health fair. That was great, and I want to extend my thanks. I don't see her in the audience tonight, to Diane Fox, who is the chairman of that Senior Citizen Advisory Board. What a job she did putting that together. It was really great, and it could have been a little better attended, but we can work on that. But she did a great job, and we did have a good amount of people there. And also, the last thing is I just want to comment on the 175th anniversary of the Presbyterian Church. Congratulations to John and Roxy Ash, who were there. It happened on Sunday. Our mayor was one of the speakers, and it was a very great service, and it went on with some food that was given out down in the church itself, downstairs in the rec hall, and everything went very well. That's it, Roger.
Thank you. In addition to tonight's meeting, if any of the scouts are interested, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, the freeholders will be meeting in this room. So they'll have a chance to also see how the freeholders handle what they do with the county and how they handle all the different things that come up. It's interesting that we did celebrate the 175th anniversary of the First Presbyterian Church in this community. While I was thinking about what I was going to say at that session, it came to me that in 1841, when the cornerstone was laid, this country was still pretty young. And, you know, that year, the 9th President of the United States, William Henry Harrison, died in office 1 month after he was inaugurated. So when you think about it, today we have the 45th president about to be installed in January, and it was only the 9th president of the United States when this church was formed. The other nice thing about that church is the fact that it survived all these years. It says a lot about its leaders and its congregation to keep it up. And I think when you look at it, that same principle could be applied to everything. To any other building, but it's very significant. And if any of you have been in that church, and I have to tell you, I've lived in this community for 33 years. This is the first time I was in that church. I was in awe. It doesn't throw back in time to me because I wasn't born then. I was born 100 years later. But at the same token, when you see it, you have to be impressed with the way that building is kept. The structure and everything inside of it is almost as it was the day that it started, and that's phenomenal.
Well, he's a member of the Historic Society.
Yes, he is, but that listed, and the church is on the historic register too, and I think that's significant. I thought about tonight before I came here, and I have to tell you, we just completed a national election, which a lot of people were turned off, and no matter who you chose to support, that's your particular decision. But here locally, we went through probably one of the worst elections that I've ever seen in the 4 terms that, unfortunately, I was reelected. And it really bothered me because we have, from the day we started here, we had open, honest, and transparent government. None of what happened and what Bobby was referring to should have been in a committee, in an election. To refer to our professionals as cronies is insulting, because we have some of the finest professionals of any township alone. And their credentials, I'd match them with anybody. Their benevolence and what they do for this community, because a lot of them are community people like the rest of us. So we don't just pull them out of the woodwork and put them in there. I was upset about other things that came, because the fact that they talk about bipartisan governance, you have to understand, we don't have a surplus problem in this township. In the last 9 years, we've averaged over $2.2 million a year in surplus. Okay? We don't have a road program problem. I'll give you one town, for example. Someone says we neglect Mitzvah. Since 2012, we've spent over $2 million on road programs in Mitzvah alone. So every year we have a road program. In our budget, I would match it with anybody's. And that's another thing, too, those of you in the audience who can see it. Go on the website that we told you about earlier today. Pull down the PowerPoint of our budget. It's so simple to follow that anybody would find it. So I personally feel for Bobby, and I was in that picture, too, and I happen to be Hispanic, and I didn't like somebody putting busted across my picture or handcuffs around it. Look up my record. If you find anything in it, tell me, because I don't know of anything that they could point fingers at. So I'm very disparaged about the conduct of the opposition in this election. I don't run negative campaigns. I didn't ask Bobby to run with me to be negative. His whole approach is positive, and with that, it really takes it down a peg, and now we got to work hard to bring it back up to where we feel it should be. So with that, it's completely upsetting as an individual to deal with those issues. But I realize we're big boys. But I was told it wasn't us, it was out-of-towners. Well, out-of-towners don't run this town. We do as a committee, and we're responsible to you in the audience. Because once you get elected, you put aside partisan politics, and you're supposed to do the work of the people. And that's what we're committed to do. And that's what, as long as I sit here, and I believe, hopefully, everybody up here, with Bobby, Art, me, John, and even Rodney, will do the same. So with that, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone in the public wish to speak? Come on down.
Hey, John, on the intersection of 322 and McKee Avenue, there used to be a gas station there. What's going up in its place?
AutoZone.
What?
AutoZone.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And where's this other store going to be located at?
Excuse me?
Where's this other store going to be located at?
Right across the street from the AutoZone on that raised-up ground there to the right on the corner. That'll be that Lidl supermarket.
Behind the movies, Jim.
Yeah, behind them, across from the movies there.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
All right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Do any of you young men have any questions? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it's a good time to answer it, because with 5 committee people up here, you may get a balanced answer, and maybe not.
At least one of us will have the right answer. Odds are for it.
It's okay. Look, as I said it before, anyone on committee that you want to outreach to, you can go on our website. We all have email addresses. We will answer your emails. We'll answer your responses and your phone calls. Does anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Come on up, Fred.
Congratulations, guys, for winning your elections, and we're looking forward to working with you with the Mays Landing Merchants Association. One of the things where we do have a problem is getting people to events, and because we don't advertise them. So I took it upon myself tonight to advertise the tree lighting event. John gave me a little bit of information, but I tried to look for it on the website, but who's actually responsible for a tree lighting event?
The Historical Society. HBC, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay,
HBC.
because I didn't even see it on there either.
And Cheryl Fetty runs it, yeah.
Is there anything going on with it, just other than just the tree lighting? There's anything,
Well, it's advertised on our board through the township, our electrical boards, but no, that's probably it.
okay, all right, so I'll figure that out. All right, thanks, that's all I wanted to know, thanks.
But you know what, Fred? If you look at it every year, we do average good numbers there, at least 350. And I think that's significant. It happens to be a good time of the year. See a lot of families there, and even after the trees and the lights are lit, everyone hangs around, and I think the community spirit, you feel it, and I think that's what's important. But I do understand what you're saying about advertising. I think it was a focal point of the events that the Mays Landing merchants have put on, and it's paid its way in gold, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And Fred, thank you for using social media to expand that.
Yeah, I figured there's probably, 20,000 people here, 350 go, maybe, so we get maybe 1,000 people to go maybe this time around?
Thank you.
That's a lot of hot chocolate, man.
Yeah, you're going to get some more hot chocolate.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
You'll see also what we're going to do after this, after we close the public portion. We're going to go into executive session, which generally is just held among the committee members with the administrator and the solicitor. Generally, we don't report on unless we have something to report on or when it's come to a point at which the information is made public. The other thing that's important to realize is that you may see sparse people in our audience tonight. If there's a significant issue, we will pack the hallways in here. People will be up to the front and out into the hallways. Those are good type of sessions to have because we let the public speak until they don't want to speak anymore. And I think that's what's important because we let the information surface so we can get a better grasp on it. There's always a reporter generally in the audience out there. That's Charles Pritchard, who served on committee for how many years, Charles? 22, and he was mayor for a few terms also. Chief of Police is here. You'll see our CFO is out there. The clerk is up here. The deputy clerk is here. We have our head of public works in the audience. So generally, we have enough people out there that if the question comes up and we need to get an immediate answer, if the administrator can't answer it, one of those individuals will come up and give the information. So we try to be prepared for a lot, but every now and then there could be some things that come up, but it doesn't mean we're going to shut them down. We believe in letting the public speak all the time, because that's probably one of the most important things we could do. So is there anybody else in the audience?
Move to close public portion.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, executive session. Rita?
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law: collective bargaining, decision from arbiter, land acquisition, potential parkland, personnel matter, municipal court judge. Be it further resolved that the governing body will reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight.
Do we have a move to go into executive session?
So moved.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay.
All right, the time now is 8 o'clock. We are back in the open session. The subject matter of the items that were discussed in executive session was limited to the 3 items that were announced at the close of the open session. The minutes of those executive session minutes will be made available, at which time the confidential nature of the matter is no longer confidential. With respect to 2 of those matters, no action will be taken. With respect to 1 of those matters, it is my understanding that some limited action will be taken, and I turn it back to our mayor.
Okay. It's your pleasure.
I can make a motion to give the administrator the authority to go ahead and advertise for a municipal court judge.
Second.
Have a second? Any questions or comments?
You'll need a roll call.
I know, but thank you. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Laws?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And so the record is clear, both Michael Jacobs and myself walked outside in the lobby to ascertain as to whether or not any public were there, who left the meeting at the end of the open session. There were none there, so you may proceed.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Do we need a motion then
To-
on
to
item
adjourn.
number 1?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll make a motion on the collective bargaining decision from the
No, we don't need
arbitrator.
anything. No, we just a motion
need
to
any-
adjourn
Motion to
from
adjourn.
executive
Okay.
session.
Make
So,
a motion to
motion to
adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're back in regular session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
You've been
We do
in
now.
regular session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank
I
you.
like that.